See, it's
here pretty soon. He's going to tell us about Fort Walton Beach. But that storm surge is about 15 feet, and I'm afraid it did pretty enormous damage to some of the beachfront houses.
In fact, let's look at some of the damage reported over the last 24 hours with Opal. Again, Okaloosa County, probably one of the hardest hit, 15-foot storm surge. We were talking about that yesterday as a Category 3 storm.
That's about what we expected. At the time, it was a Category 4. We were fearful that it might be higher than that. We were thinking up to 20 feet, but once it got down to Category 3, we figured about 15, and from the reports we're getting, that was quite accurate.
And again, we've been pointing it out all day, but residents of Pensacola maybe kind of, I use this cliche too much, dodged the bullet a little bit on this one. Maybe they had more damage with Aaron than they did with Opal.
Maybe so, but we're beginning to hear about quite a bit of damage down at Pensacola Beach. We don't have much particulars on that, but on the beachfront, it was a storm surge certainly that did the most damage along that stretch.
Well, John, right now on the phone we have one of our producers, one of our talented producers here at the Weather Channel, Simon Ross Temperton, who has been surveying the damage in the area around Fort Walton Beach. Simon, can you give us an update on what's going on in that immediate area?
Yes, I can, Dennis. We drove into Fort Walton Beach earlier this morning, and the first thing that struck us was how many boats are being washed up onto the roads into a hotel parking lot. And it was quite amazing, actually, to see so many boats and being ripped away from their moorings and are up on hotels and up across the street. We just went across to Okaloosa Island, and we just tried to get across Highway 98, but that is completely washed out. The road is completely gone. Sand dunes are completely gone. And it's just amazing how it looks like this was not a wind event, as John just said, but it was a storm surge. And we went to a Ramada Inn, a hotel there on the beachfront, and their whole first floor was completely under 4 or 5 feet of sand. It's a pretty amazing sight, and we will be feeding some video back a bit later on of that event.
Okay, and you also surveyed the situation with Hurricane Aaron earlier in the summer, and you saw some of the damage related to that. How would you compare that to what's going on with the damage you're seeing with Opal?
Well, I think that Hurricane Aaron, the storm was that they had a lot more damage, as you just said, in Pensacola. And we had reports earlier, and I talked to John Teeland, who is the information officer from Escambia County, which looks after Pensacola Beach. And they said that the damage this time was a lot worse than it was in Aaron. And Aaron was pretty bad. They said, he told me that the first half mile to a mile, there was actually 90% destruction of homes. And they haven't let anybody on that island yet. And I think we're waiting, along with the rest of the media, to go down and just see how bad it is, basically.
And how far were you able to get down, let's say, Highway 98 towards Apalachicola to assess the damage, or it's been pretty much where you're located right now?
No, we crossed the bridge from Fort Walton Beach onto Okaloosa Island, and then just east of Okaloosa Island, like a mile, Highway 98, as I said, is completely washed out. I mean, when you say a road is washed out, you think of, just like for 100 yards or so, but for like 3/4 of a mile, there's no road. The road is completely gone.
Well, Simon, what have you seen? You talked about the sand in the hotel in the Hotel Ramada there, 3 or 4 feet deep. What have you seen on the smaller beach houses? Have you seen anything of those, the effect on those kind of houses?
So on the island we're just on, and we went to the along the beachfront there, and sand was the sand and the water had gone through the homes and had completely destroyed a few of the beach homes, and even some which were a good ways away from the actual beachfront had a lot of damage. A lot of not actually structural damage, but it looked like the water and the sand had pushed everything out of their basement or their first floor, and there was debris lying around all over the place.
And you've seen a number of houses you think were completely destroyed?
On Okaloosa Island, I'd say there was we saw a few homes. I wouldn't say a lot. A few beach homes which were destroyed. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon Temperton, one of our producers here at the Weather Channel, surveying the damage down in the Panhandle area of Florida. John, does any of this damage he's reporting surprise you?
Not with that kind of a storm surge. It's going to take us a while to assess all this and to see just what the extent of the damage was, because some of those areas haven't really been visited very much, or at least we don't have any reports back.
A little bit of silver lining on this particular storm. It looks like we've got some beneficial rains moving north.
Yes, they've had a very, very dry summer up there, and I know that they must be delighted to see some of these rains. And right now, Dennis, it seems to be moving along rapidly enough so we don't have to worry too much about extensive flooding. We hope not.
Yeah, because we see that rain already up in New York and areas of Pennsylvania, and again, reporting a very serious deficit on the rain. In fact, around Philadelphia, as much as 12 inches. So this should be a benefit to that immediate area.
They've had like a couple inches and more rain in the offing, so hopefully that will be alleviated somewhat.
Okay, John Hope, I'm Dennis Smith. We'll return to the Forecast Center next half hour. Keep you updated on which is now Tropical Depression Opal, and we'll look back at the damages it made inland roads to areas of the Florida Panhandle. Stay with us right here on the Weather Channel.
Car Radio. Because it only takes one drop to make a difference. Watch the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to.
Well, Opal has been taking the headlines here for the last 24 hours, and even before that. The aftermath is starting to come in, and the devastation is quite incredible. The storm surge was at least 15 feet high, we think, in places where the landfall was made, and also to the east of the landfall. So we're looking at some incredible devastation here around the Oskaloosa County area, the beaches there, Crestview, a tornado coming down, Pensacola Beach, some extensive wind damage, and some very gusty winds. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at some of the wind gusts that we had here. Opal's aftermath, the peak winds, something quite incredible, all the way to Marietta, which is on the northwest side of Atlanta, 69-mile-per-hour gusts, so almost 70 miles per hour of a wind gust. Now, most of the winds were sustained around 40 miles or 30 or 40, but some of those gusts did topple some trees out there in Atlanta, especially on the west side of Atlanta, even up into Huntsville, Montgomery, 90-mile-per-hour wind gust. But not to be outdone, way down here at the coastal areas of Florida, 144 at Mary Esther there. So some very incredible winds. Let's see what's going on right now. In this situation, we have Opal way up here now. 24 hours later, Opal is right here, and it's very weak circulation. Still has a lot of rain, but the wind field has pretty much been diminished, except for over the waters. What waters? Well, the waters of Lake Erie. We are seeing some rather strong winds here, so boats would be advised hopefully that no boats are out there, but certainly some big waves being created because of some strong winds here. But there's so much land, so many trees, so many hills and mountains through here that has lost a lot of its wind. Still quite a bit of rain moving up the east coast though, and still some problems with this. We do have a tornado watch in effect until midnight here for parts of Virginia and North Carolina, and we have a couple of warnings out in this area. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Meanwhile in the tropics, yeah, we're not safe yet. Tropical season goes all the way through November, and Pablo is the latest. Tropical storm Pablo, and winds are at 50 miles per hour. It has just formed earlier today. The latest coordinates at 11.0 north, 40.0 west. That's a pretty even plot on your map if you are plotting at home. And it's moving pretty quickly, which is always a concern when tropical systems move quickly. It gives us less time. Of course, in this case, since it's so far out at sea, it's going to take probably 4 days to get toward the island. So we have plenty of time to monitor the progress of Pablo. Here's the satellite picture, and this is our tropical storm. This is a tropical wave that will have to be watched as well, but right now not expected to develop. But certainly may have an effect on Pablo, as it looks like Pablo is kind of riding right on the tails of that tropical wave, and could increase. As a matter of fact, we expect to see a hurricane Pablo tomorrow. So a lot going on in the tropics now. Noel is not gone yet. It actually came back to hurricane strength after going way down to just a tropical storm, a weak tropical storm. It has regained some strength, but we don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just kind of meandering out here, doesn't know what to do, and eventually it is going to just kind of fizzle on out. As you can see here, it's just spinning on its merry way, eventually ending up in Europe in the form of moisture here. Well, back in the Caribbean, we do have a flare-up right in here of some big thunderstorms over, well, it's basically over the central Caribbean here, south of the Hispaniola. And it doesn't look like that is developing yet, but it's certainly something to monitor if it persists. The reason we think it's developing, there's a trough of low pressure in the atmosphere here, and it's helping to flare that up. But right now, we don't think it's going to develop into a tropical depression right away, so we will keep an eye on that for you. And that pretty much sums up the tropics. Now it's time to talk about the forecast, right? Let's see what the weekend has.